So anyone? Okay, there are a few people who are going to be out of the session. Please do. Okay, Ravi Sheikh, Pritika, please come back. I'm going to start recording. Okay, so dengue. Uh, so what is dengue? Any idea? Anything that you all would like to share on dengue? Anybody?
Apple.
Anybody?
Oh, guys,
Anybody?
active for the chat.
Kevin, बोल देना.
Mosquito-borne viral disease.
Okay, mosquito-borne viral disease. Very good. Anything else? So there are any other mosquito-borne viral disease? Break-borne disease, hemorrhagic disease. Okay, hemorrhagic disease caused by dengue virus. Okay, so uh, basically dengue. There are a group of diseases that are caused that are similar in nature. Okay, last time what class did I take? Yellow fever, right? So in yellow fever, what it was? Mosquito, viral disease, and the symptoms are fever type, those things. Now what I said last time was try to gather the common to study it differently, right? So for that, there are lots of things common between mosquito, sorry, the between dengue and yellow fever. Okay, and there are other diseases also that you all will be continuing to study regarding these and all. So try to aggregate those common factors so that it's easy for you all to understand. Keeping it in your mind, making it easy to study will be remember for your exam purpose will be easy. Okay, so think about that as well. So basically dengue is a arboviral disease, arthropod-borne disease. Arthropod is the mosquito. It does not come out of the mosquito, but basically what happens is that mosquito is the vector over here, and the mosquito of interest is Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus. Okay, so these two mosquito are the mosquito of interest over here, and most commonly in our part of the world is this. So dengue is found mainly in the tropical and subtropical climates. Why in the tropical and subtropical climates, and mostly in urban and semi-urban areas? Anybody would like to share why? Okay, I'll just call out some names. I want you all to answer. Okay. Uh, uh, uh. Abhishek Sharma. Abhishek Sharma, can you please unmute your mic? Why is dengue found mostly in tropical and subtropical climates, mostly in urban and semi-urban areas? If you have to give one reason.
Because the environment is favorable to the dengue virus.
I can't hear you, Abhishek. Please come closer to the mic.
Sir, maybe because the environment is favorable for the mosquitoes and dengue virus.
Okay, environment is favorable for the mosquito. Very good. Thank you. So basically what happens is that the main reason and probably the only reason is the vector of interest over here. Vector of interest over here. Aedes love to Aedes, any mosquito, they survive in tropical and subtropical climates, number one. And among the type of mosquitoes that we have, Aedes usually is associated with disease in urban and semi-urban areas. Okay, it's not of primary of our rural area. It's not an inhabitant normally of a rural area. It's usually jungle and urban and semi-urban areas. So that is why it's seen mostly in this region. Problem statement: actual number of dengue is very, very, very underreported. Now again, I'd like to come back to you guys. I'll just call out your name. Sugam Alimagar. Please unmute your mic. Quick, Sugam. China. माइक अनम्युट गर न। Why do you think खै माइक अनम्युट गर्न आएन? बोलेको सुन्न मन लागेको भने okay, let's not waste time. Actual number of dengue cases are underreported and misclassified. Why? You can type in the answer. खै सुगा छैन? Okay, आङडोलमा शेर्पा. Why do you think number of cases are underreported in dengue? Yeah.
किनभने सर
Yes. Okay,
because
so,
we don't
one other.
किनभने त्यो सिम्टम डेभलप भएको पेसेन्टहरुमा आई मिन
Okay,
त्यो
fair.
लास्ट त्यसै कारण
Okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. Anyone else would like to add? Kritika Bhatrai. Test for dengue is less sensitive and all. Okay, anything else? Kritika, would you like to add anything? Why actual number of dengue cases are underreported?
So cases are asymptomatic हुन्छ त्यही भएर
सुनेन अलिक नजिक आऊ. Okay, I think let's start off. So basically what happens is that many of the cases are asymptomatic, number one. Number two, the type of symptom it presents with, we'll talk about it in a while, is not actually predictive or suggestive of dengue right away, okay? So that is the reason. So most of the cases are self-limiting, like you all said. So mild symptoms, so self-limiting, mild fever, few days and it goes off. So the cases might be underreported. So it's estimated that around 400 million dengue infections per year, and of which only less than 100 million. So only 1 in 4 cases come out to manifest clinically without any severity of the disease. Okay, in 2015, around 3.2 million were only reported. Just see the difference over here. Less than 4 million were reported, but around 400 million dengue was estimated. Okay, so that's the difference over here. And this disease is relatively a new disease. New disease, why? Because cases were seen in 9 countries only before 1970, and after 1970, now it has risen up drastically to be seen in more than 100 countries. Okay, severe dengue is the leading cause of serious illness and death among children, and in some Asian and Latin American countries. So slowly, year by year, the endemicity is increasing. Basically, the amount of area that is covered by this virus is slowly increasing. So if you see this old chart, this 2016 chart, and these regions are gray not because they have no cases of dengue, but because they are not really reported. Yes, European country we can say that it's a bit less, but African country is underreported. You see over here, Mexico, Brazil, and some of the Oceanic region countries and Southeast Asian region countries, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, these are the very much endemic region. After that is India and all, and after that is Nepal, Bhutan, a bit more is Bangladesh. So that is the trend basically. Okay, now okay, so in Nepal, basically this we heard about this disease for the first time in somewhere around 2015, sorry 2005, and in 2006 and 10 we had major outbreaks. After that there were few outbreaks every 3 or 4 years. Okay, and last year was one of the most important outbreak here. I have not updated this slide because actual number of figure I have not been able to get, but I'll show you some data in a while. Initially imported cases were only seen, and in 2005 we saw only imported cases. Okay, some cases coming from India, they were found that dengue was diagnosed, and when they traced the history, it was found that they had come from India. So it was not an indigenous disease. Okay, later on in 2006 and 2010 and 2013, 16 and 19, I think. Yeah, 2010, 13, 16 and 19 is basically high number of cases here. That is these are the years where we have seen the highest number of cases. And just see the number of cases over here. Previously, it was just about a few less than 50, 50, 50. 2010, it was about 1,000. And few again, number of cases came down. And in 2013, it was about 600-700. And then a few cases come down again, it was high. So that is the general trend. Okay. Last few years, if you see, few cases, 1 year there's a spike. This I think is 2016. And few years it will go down, and again there's another spike. So that is the general trend. Okay, I'll just show you this content. Let me just share. I'll just show you one slide. Okay. Okay, this is last year's about till August. This was published last year. We saw many cases till that time, and in Nepali for the foreign students. I just wanted to share one thing. Okay, just see over here. This is not the actual number of cases. Okay, this is the reported cases in the Sentinel system, in our surveillance system that has been reported. So if it is this much, it is actually much more. Okay, so what we can see is the trend. 73 it was a bit high, and then in next 1 year it was low, and another year it was again high. So the trend is up and down, up and down. Last year it was said that somewhere around 8,000 cases were reported. Somewhere around 8,000, yeah, 8,000 cases were reported, but it is estimated to be around 20, 30, 40,000 people who are infected with this disease. We don't really know the exact figure, again, because we don't have a very strong data keeping system, and we don't have a very strong surveillance system to cover whole of Nepal. So we don't really know the exact data. Okay, so but basically what I can say is that this disease is slowly increasing. It's spread out massively last year. Last year it started out from eastern Nepal in Dharan, and slowly in Makwanpur, Chitwan region, central Nepal it started to come, and then in Kathmandu it came, and then slowly it was seen in almost all of the districts in Nepal. Majority of the places we saw this, not all, but majority of the districts we saw the cases, and then the cases went down, and then after one or two sporadic cases we've been seeing. This year, when I checked few days ago, I checked the report, and I saw that there are still few cases being reported regularly, one or two. So the season has not really come. It will be coming in about few months now. Once the rain has started to come regularly and the temperature is warm and humid, then it will start to come again and again. Okay? So that is the general thing. So epidemiology. Agent, dengue virus, member of genus Flavivirus, belonging to Flaviviridae, and there are 4 types: dengue 1, 2, 3, 4, den 1, den 2, den 3, den 4. All 4 types are circulating in Nepal. Last year it was said that den 2 or 3, I forgot, was the only one that is circulating. Again, we don't know the real figures. Nothing has been published. If there is anything published, if I can find anything, I'll be definitely sharing with you all. Okay, so my environment same like last time, same like it's almost the same thing. Is the same vector, Aedes. Primary vector is Aedes. It lives in the urban habitat and breeds mostly in man-made containers. Daytime feeders, peak biting period, early morning and evening before dusk. This is the most important thing. Sleeping inside mosquito net will not protect against dengue. Okay, because most important thing over here is it bites in early in the morning or evening before the dusk. Multiple bites of people during each feeding period, because this mosquito is biting in early morning and evening before dusk. So this is the time the people are active. People are awake. They are not sleeping, right? So if the mosquito comes and bites you, what will happen is that we will come to know whether something is there in our skin, and then we'll get distracted and we'll just remove the mosquito from our body, so it will fly off. So it has not successfully fed as much as it needed. Okay, so it just got some little bit fraction of the blood that it needs. So it will take somewhere around 10 to 15 bites to be successfully for the feeding to be complete. So what happens is this: it spreads the disease very drastically. Okay, so every bite, if the mosquito is infected, the disease will go from one person to another, another to another. In case of Anopheles, what happens is that it bites in late night in the dark. Okay, so when we are sleeping and we don't really know whether the mosquito has landed in our body. So what happens is that it will come, it will bite, it will bite, it will bite, it will suck off all the blood. One bite is enough, so it will spread only one person. The disease will spread in one person. So that is the reason for mosquito malaria. We don't see drastical number of cases, but Aedes borne we see drastical number of cases. Why? Because the biting nature of the vector. Okay, so it bites multiple people for each feeding period, and Abopictus is the secondary in Asia. Aegypti is the most important one, and Aedes population is another thing. It requires water, clean water for hatching. Okay, so what happens is that this clean water, even a cup, even a small cap of Coke Fanta bottle cap, mineral water bottle cap, that is enough. That much few ml of water is enough for it to hatch. So what happens is that a mosquito, um, I'll just show you one figure. Okay, I'll just show you with one thing. I've got a small cup, like just this is a small cup, you can see, right? So what happens is that the mosquito will lay eggs somewhere in the rim, or just below the rim. Okay, it does not lay eggs on the water. Most important thing. Now this uh, cup that has got water, that has got eggs over here. What will happen is it's in the environment. It's stable, right? So rain will fall. Over the period of time with the rain falling, the water level will slowly rise, and once the water level reaches the egg-laid region, so say for example, egg is in the rim, and water level slowly covers, and water just is filled with, this cap is filled with water. So what happens is that egg will touch the water. Once the egg touches the water, if the temperature is favorable, it will immediately hatch. In a few days, of course, it will hatch, and then it will spread. So just see the amount of little containers that we have around our house. If you just look outside your house and see the number of containers, and it does not necessarily have to be this kind of pure container thing. Okay, it can be one small packet of plastic which is lying around, which can store water. It can be even the trees, plants tree. If in some indoor plants, outdoor plants, this is one stem, another stem. If water can collect in this, that's enough. It can be the flower, the plate placed below the flower pots all around the house. That could be one very important source. It could be a left out slipper or a shoes, very important source. Coconut shells, tires, left out cups, plastic cup, anything that can store little amount of water can be the source of, can be the breeding site. Okay, so those are all clean water, not dirty water, clean water. And then eggs are laid somewhere around it. Once the water starts to fall, and then slowly it'll boom. Okay, it'll hatch and it'll explode. Another important thing about this vector is that this vector eggs can survive for a long time in right temperature. Last year's egg is definitely in the circle, is in some sites of Kathmandu, definitely. Year before last year, we saw a few cases of dengue in Kathmandu, and it was in Bafal region, Kalimati Bafal area, it was there. Last year, the first case reported was from the same very region. What it indicates is that year before last year's egg, which was hatched, was there, and favorable climate, favorable temperature, the eggs were not disturbed, and then the eggs were there for the whole year. Next year, when the rain came and the eggs got in contact with the egg water, it hatched in the favorable temperature, and those eggs had the virus. Okay, so this way, the same region we saw, and slowly it started to spread throughout Kathmandu. So last year it was a big problem, and somewhere in December we did one study in what do you call this? Saddobato Guarco area near BNB hospital. In that area, we did one study in December. We went, I had a small team of about 5-6 people. We went to somewhere around 45-50 houses, and around 50-60% of the houses had Aedes mosquito breeding site. Okay, although it was the cold temperature, November, December, it was mid-December, yes. The temperature was not favorable, but still we saw the number, we saw Aedes mosquito. So what we tried to prove at that time was that mosquito is there throughout the year. It's just the density of the mosquito is less because of the temperature, of course. And once the density increases, if the agent comes in, then it will spread the disease. So we were trying to say that even in December, don't be surprised if you see dengue cases in Nepal, in Kathmandu especially. Okay, so we were not surprised. We went from house to house, and in house we saw water being stored. We asked the people, can we just see? We went to one of the leaders' house also, and we asked, oh, you invited us. We went, we talked with him, and we just said his overhead tank was fully contaminated with Aedes mosquito. We brought eggs. Sorry, we could not see the eggs, of course. We brought the larva, pupa, and after a few days, the pupa even hatched to the Aedes mosquito. We could do all that whole immunological life cycle we could do. So what I'm trying to say is environment is favorable. Okay. So transmission. Virus is transmitted from humans through bites of infected female mosquito. The virus incubation period is 4 to 5 days. So it takes around 4 to 5 days in the mosquito for the virus to be replicated to full number of full required load so that it spreads the disease. Okay, an infected mosquito is capable of transmitting the virus for the rest of its life. This is the most dangerous thing. The virus, the mosquito lives for about 40-45 days. So it can spread the disease for the whole life. Infected, symptomatic, or asymptomatic humans are the main carriers and the multipliers of the virus, serving as a source for the virus for the uninfected mosquitoes. So basically, if someone has got asymptomatic infection or has got a mild infection or has got a severe infection, if they are infected, the mosquito will bite, the mosquito will be infected. If the uninfected mosquito bites, that mosquito will be infected, and the mosquito, after about 4 days to 10 days, it will be able to set the virus to other people, so it will go on to bite another. In the 15th day, the mosquito wants to feed, it goes on to feed, and it will have around 15-20 bites. Say someone, the whole family is sitting outside in the veranda and having a cup of tea in the evening. There are 5 people, the whole 5 of the people, the mosquito will bite because it has to, it's a constant nuisance. So we'll try to share, we'll try to remove the mosquito from the body. It'll go on to bite another one. It'll come back, bite multiple times. So it can basically, if it's a mosquito, infected mosquito, it can bite the whole family in the same feeding period as well. Okay, so that is very important. Now, what happens is the patient who are already infected with infected with dengue virus can transmit the infection for about 4 to 5 days, maximum 12 days. This is one very good thing over here. A person is not lifelong symptomatic, or a person is not lifelong infective. Okay, it's just about 4 to 5 days. Few cases they are 12 days, but otherwise it's just 4 to 5 days. After 4 to 5 days, if I am infected with dengue, after 4 to 5 days, after their first symptom appears, or even asymptomatic few days. So basically, 4 to 5 days is only the transmission time. Clinically, okay. Clinically, there is, like you all said earlier, asymptomatic is one major group. Asymptomatic is one dengue virus infection are divided into 2 groups: asymptomatic and symptomatic. Asymptomatic, no symptoms. Symptomatic are divided into undifferentiated fever. We don't really know what is it. So by the time we come to know, it's cured. So it's again almost like asymptomatic itself. Among the symptomatic, another group is dengue fever. The most commonest one among the symptomatic is this. So with hemorrhage, without hemorrhage, this is dengue fever. And another group is the severe group. This group will ultimately convert to this group, dengue, hemorrhagic fever, plasma leakage. So they might either be in no shock or might be in shock. Okay, I'll just talk about it detailed just a while. So undifferentiated fever, asymptomatic, I don't have to say anything, no symptoms. Undifferentiated fever may just have simple fever, 1 or 2 days fever, and may or may not have maculopapular rashes. Usually occurs in the ones who are infected for the first time, and these are the primary dengue infections. So one bite of mosquito, first time I got last year, we can assume that there were a big number of undifferentiated cases. Okay, we can assume that because last year was the first year Kathmandu got really hit hard with dengue virus. So primary first infection, it could be that. Dengue fever, another group is dengue fever, incubation period about 3 to 10 days. After about 3 days bite of infected mosquito, there will be sudden onset high fever with chills, okay, and intense headache, muscle and joint pain. That's why the name break bone fever. If the fever is so severe, it's like as if the person's bone is about to break. Okay. And another important feature is retroorbital pain and photophobia. Very severe retroorbital pain. And abdominal pain, anorexia, dragging pain in the environment region is another thing. Fever is biphasic, rises and falls and rises back in again in 2 days. We see that kind of pattern up and down. Skin rashes appear in remission. Pinpoint later. First is pinpoint rashes, and after a few days, when the fever is about to go, it converts to maculopapular rashes. We might really not see it. Okay, actually, especially in our region because of the skin color, we might not even see this kind of rashes. Fever lasts for about 5 days, and case fatality for dengue fever alone is very, very, very rare. Very, very rare. Okay. Some people, after about 6 to severe form of dengue occurs in 3 phases. After about 4 to 6 days of incubation period, sudden onset, rapid rise in fever is there with flushing, headache, anorexia, same like previous thing. And then fever is very, very high. Okay, same like dengue fever in the first few days, but there is still high fever. And another thing what happens over here is dengue hemorrhagic fever. So something has to be with the blood. What happens is plasma leakage. The plasma capillary lining will have the virus will render the capillary lining weak. It will start to leak the plasma. So once the plasma starts to leak, 2 things will happen. Hematocrit will rise, okay, because of low volume, intravascular volume. Hematocrit will rise. Hematocrit normally is around 30s, right? So that is going to rise up, and moderate to marked thrombocytopenia can be seen. So again, dengue hemorrhagic fever, first is febrile phase, second is critical phase. Fever is a bit less, but significant plasma leakage, progressive leukopenia, rapid decrease in platelet count, pleural diffusion, and it might convert to shock. Then the same person or some other people, most of them can recover. Okay, if the patient survives 42, somewhere around 2 to 3 days, or 1 to 2 days, sorry, of critical phase, they will slowly recover, and all that leaked plasma will be resorbed. And then hematocrit will slowly go down, and pruritus will occur because of all the leaked bloods and all. So there will be pruritus, rashes will be seen, blood comes back to normal slowly. So that is the recovery phase. So basically what happens is that if the patient survives mosquito bite 4 to 5 days, sudden fever, few days, 1, 2 days, 3 days, this fever will be very, very high. And after about that, there will be signs of shock, or may not be signs of shock, but there will be hematocrit rise, thrombocytopenia, not that really seen in all, but we see that. And then recovery will start to occur in about 2-3 days. Okay, so within 4 to 5 days period, the person will actually recover. Now, this is the dangerous one, severe dengue. Severe dengue is defined as one or more of the following: plasma leakage may lead to sudden shock. If shock occurs, severe bleeding occurs, or any of the organ impairment occurs. Commonly liver, kidneys. If signs of impairment occurs, then we label it as severe dengue. If these happen, then we call it as severe dengue. What happens? It usually takes around defeverance, usually on the 4 or 5 days of the illness. Preceded by a warning sign. I'll just talk about the warning sign in a while. There are a few warning signs. These are one of the warning signs as well. So what will happen is a person will have fever, 4-5 days of fever. Suddenly, some people may have these developed, and they may end up with severe dengue. Okay, this is the most severe one. Okay, this is the natural history with some other features, laboratory and serological features, very critical for diagnosis of the disease and all. So what happens is that first day of illness, fever will rise, okay, and then few days it will still be high, and then it will go down, and then it might again come up again. If recovery occurs at any time, you can stop the trend then only. Clinical features: initial phase, they might be just fever and dehydration. Later on, in about 4 days, shock, bleeding may occur. Organ impairment may occur at that time. If the person survives this, reabsorption will occur. Fluid overload may even occur. So pleural effusion also can be seen. Laboratory, what happens is that hematocrit will slowly rise after about 3 to 4 days, 5 days. Okay, it's rise and then it will go down and then will normalize. Platelet level will be again going down somewhere around 4-5 days, and then will slowly come back if everything goes down. Viral load is in fact the highest before we see anything. So detecting antigen early in the stage of the fever is the most important. Viremia. IgM, IgG will rise later on. The IgM rises somewhere around this time, IgG will rise somewhere around later over here. So detecting the disease in about 6-7 days when IgM detection is what it indicates is a false indication of disease. Okay, disease has already occurred. So we want the disease to be detected early stage. So we want to detect the virus. This is one very common figure in dengue. The same slide has been used by millions of people when they talk about dengue. Basically, dengue with warning sign can if someone has got dengue and if they have got warning signs, then they may convert to severe dengue. That is the most important thing. So what are the features? Dengue with probable dengue is people living in or travel to dengue endemic region, fever and two of the following. So nausea, vomiting, rashes, aches and pains, tourniquet test positive. We just do the tourniquet test, and then uh, petechiae might occur. That is indicates plasma leakage. Leukopenia or any warning sign, any other warning sign. If it's there, then if there is two of these, then we can label it as dengue. Warning signs: abdominal pain or tenderness. Number one, persistent vomiting, clinical fluid accumulation, most commonly pleural effusion, mucosal bleeding from inside the mouth, lethargy, restlessness, liver enlargement more than 2 centimeters, and lab diagnosis if there is increase in hematocrit. So these are the things. In pains and rash, I think we can include retroorbital pain, breakbone fever, all those things over here. So basically, to suspect someone with dengue, are you from a dengue endemic region or did you come from a dengue endemic region? Yes. And if they have got any of these two, then that is enough for diagnosis of dengue. Okay, that is probable dengue. So once there is probable dengue, we might send for laboratory diagnosis depending on the symptom. Lab diagnosis, if it is in early stage, antigen test will come positive. If it is in late stage, IgM or IgG will come. But IgM is very late, not required. IgM will be coming in very late stage of the disease, and that will be again non-relevant for clinical purpose. If antigen test comes positive, that means that there is current illness. Okay, we saw in this previous slide, antigen viremia occurs over here. So if you detect antigen over here, virus, then that is the real diagnosis of current infection. And if the patient has got any of these, okay, if they are warning signs, then they may convert to severe dengue. That is carefulness required. So if there are these signs, you should be really careful. You should be observing the people very well. You should be managing the people very well. So if there is severe, again, like I said earlier, shock, fluid accumulation may occur, severe bleeding may occur, or organ impairment like liver, heart, kidneys, any other organ, CNS may occur. Okay, so this is the basic. Actually, if you want to talk about clinical features of dengue, this one slide is enough. So lab diagnosis is always a diagnosis of exclusion because fever, it can be anything, and that's why it goes about here, there, everywhere. Etiological confirmation can be done by isolation of the virus, very difficult to do that. Nucleic acid detection, RT-PCR, very important one. We can exactly detect it. It will be of very good value. Complement fixation test, that is not really done over here. Hematocrit inhibition assay, again, plus minus. IgM captured by Mac ELISA, 2 specimen is required. That is very good. That is very good test. And another very important one is NS1, ELISA for NS1. This actually, if we can do ELISA for NS1, we can really say the disease with good sensitivity and specificity. Okay, ELISA for NS1. NS1 is one of the antigen in the dengue antigen of the dengue virus that can be detected. Okay, and rapid kits are there. Rapid kits are there for IgG, IgM, and even NS1 as well. Rapid kit NS1, IgM, IgG combo is there. So there are 3 stripes over there. You put the blood, see anyone, they'll say either it's current infection if it's NS1, recent infection that has already been gone, IgM, or IgG past infection. Okay, if I had infection last year, what will happen is that my IgG might be positive. Okay, if I have got IgM positive, it will indicate I had infection 1 or 2 weeks ago. If I've got NS1 positive, I'm currently having infection. So in Nepal, what we did last year was rapid diagnostic kits, and it was a big problem accessing the kit and testing everyone. There were a few centers that did ELISA for NS1, and they were the ones that did real diagnosis. And the government even issued notice not to do rapid kit because any case with fever and those symptoms were regarded as dengue, and most of them were mild, so treated as dengue. Okay. So how do you manage? First thing, you have to notify the disease. You have to grade the disease, like the grading that I said earlier. If it's mild, just ORS, fluid management, fever management, and just monitor. Okay. It's wise to take one sample of hematocrit and thrombocytopenia to check thrombocytopenia. If you take two, if those two tests are done, they'll give a baseline. Hemorrhagic fever requires hospital management, IV fluids, and serial hematocrit must be done to see the levels. Dengue shock syndrome, colloidal solution, or fresh blood transfusion, or even oxygen platelet, these are all required. And death rate of dengue is very low. Last year we had less than 10 I think. Very few deaths. And death rate is going drastically down for dengue because managing is not really tough. If the hospital level facilities are available, managing is not really tough. Okay, it's not very untreatable. Like right now in COVID, what is happening is even the hospital cannot treat the disease. Some of the cases, okay, such level of pneumonia, such level of desaturation occurs that even the hospital proper ventilators and all cannot even manage, right? So it's not like that dengue. If it's there in the hospital, these can be managed easily. These can be managed easily with household level. So this is all about dengue's clinical features. Now let's talk about control and management. So basically, control is almost the same like yellow fever. Okay, so basically, individual and community approach is required. Most important thing is anti-larval and anti-adult measure. Okay, anti-adult, not current infection might go down a little bit, but anti-larval is the real one that has to be done. So for anti-larval, we have to make sure that those larvae do not form, okay, or those eggs do not hatch. So how to do? Preventing the mosquito from accessing egg-laying habitat. So water collecting spots we have to remove. If there is any that is already there, that has to be removed. And what they have to do is basically remove it weekly basis. Every week, if there is a cleaning habit, then it might do really good thing. And another important thing for protection of the protection from the diseases, personal household protection method like window screens, long sleeve clothes, insecticide treated materials, coils and vaporizers may prevent us from getting. That is another important one. Okay, and because to do all these, each and every people of the community has to be taught. So community participation is very important. And killing adult mosquito doesn't really help. Killing adult mosquito outside the house doesn't really help because this mosquito loves to live inside the house underneath the table. Okay, underneath the table. Last year we had one interesting thing with this dengue. I was in one of the hotels, one of the good hotels of Kathmandu, and we were talking about dengue. It was just height of the endemic epidemic, height of the outbreak, and we were called for one of the interaction session. We went there, we talked about dengue and all, and the whole time mosquito was biting us, and within 1 or 2 hours of it, people were able to access that mosquito, and it was Aedes mosquito. The mosquito came from under the table. Okay, so we were called in a hotel to talk about dengue, and they were teaching us about how to protect against or how to prevent ourselves against Aedes mosquito, and we were bitten by those mosquito also. So it does not live outdoor. Outdoor treatment doesn't really help. Indoor for adults, outdoor for anti-larva, so which we don't see. So that means you know the place, you have to target the place. And I would suggest you all, this is the best time. You are in home, lockdown, everybody's in home. Best thing to do right now is clean all the flower pots. Make sure there are no breeding spots. And by cleaning, what I mean is not just removing the water, okay? That does not help. Of course, it helps a little bit. What happens is that those eggs are in the rim, okay? If it's there in the rim, if you wash it, it does not go. It's stuck over there. You have to scrub it. That plate has to be scrubbed off. If this is the plate, I need something that I can scrub it with. So those eggs are removed from there. That is the most important thing. So scrubbing off is required. Vaccines are there, but again, use is not that really common. Sanofi Pasteur has developed one CYD TTB vaccines for all adult population, basically in endemic region. Not much use. Nepal, we've got a program, and we manage the vectors by integrated vector management program. And most important thing for dengue has got is in Nepal is that dengue was not taught in educational institution more than 10, 15, 20 years ago. When we were student, uh, dengue was just being started taught. Okay, it is not necessary to teach dengue because that is not there. Like yellow fever, we were not taught much about yellow fever. Sorry, chikungunya, we were not taught. You all were taught, I think, or you all will be taught about chikungunya. We were not taught because that disease was not there at that time in our region. Dengue again was a new disease. Most of the doctors did not know about dengue, so teaching doctors is very important, and that was done. Okay, and how to detect the disease, all these things were taught mostly early stage. Right now, I think I can assume that most of the doctors are aware of what dengue is and all. It's really common thing now. And I'll not go into detail about it. You all will have to read this from your annual health report. If you see the activities that are done is training on dengue case detection and diagnosis. This was very important because they wanted to teach the doctor about it. Okay, that is one important. And other things are like we've already done now, using kits to diagnose, vector surveillance, larva search and destroy program, and education and all those things. Now, a few minutes on how dengue has been controlled in recent years. Okay, last year, let's just stop the slides. Okay, I'll take few questions. Any questions? Anyone? Keita? तिमीले मेरो स्लाइड देखिरहेको थियो नि हैन?
Yes, sir.
स्लाइड देखिरहेको थियो है? भर्खर बन्द भयो हैन?
हजुर sir.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions regarding dengue? It's already 4 o'clock. I'll just take few minutes. Any questions regarding dengue? के छ भने भन. No one, no question. केही छैन? Okay. Let me speak then. Last year we had there was. I'll give 2 examples. Okay, Nepal was one new country for rise in number of dengue cases. Bangladesh, Dhaka was one very important place we saw big number of dengue cases, and India, Delhi was another place where they saw big downhill of number of cases. They were Delhi used to have thousands of cases previous years. Last year they had very minimal cases. Bangladesh, Nepal had minimal cases. We had highest number of cases last year. Some reasons, okay. What Delhi did, what Bangladesh did was nothing in the initial stage, okay. And there were big number of cases, around 50, 60, 70,000 number of cases every week, and it was big problem in Dhaka. So what they did was they went for search and destroy program. They used around 20,000 volunteers, search and destroy all water collecting spots. So basically what they did was something very rude, something can be labeled as inhuman. People living in small dwellings do not have water tanks. They collect their water in small pots or small buckets and all. What the volunteers did was they destroyed all those water collecting spots. They threw away the water. They made sure that it's clean and all. And the number of cases went from this big spike. Within a week, it went down to almost nil. So that is how quickly the effect is seen. Okay, in Nepal, we were lucky. We did not really do much of a thing, but we did few things. Search and destroy was taught, was not enacted. Protection technique